This conference will now be recorded.
First item up here is welcoming of some new members. We've got a new OAR member. Is it Mika Laster? And then out in Western Region, our new rep is Shad. I don't know if it doesn't look like they're on the call today, are they?
I just dialed in. This is Shad here. Thanks.
Shad, welcome. Thanks for being a part of the team.
Thanks for inviting me.
So we'll appreciate everybody's participation, and especially the new members, and we'll keep moving along here. So thank you for your participation. John, I don't think there was anybody else that was a new member that I see, and I don't think any other changes have been made since the last call. Are you aware of any other changes that need to be made with membership?
Nope. I think we were happy to have two new faces on the team, so that's a pretty good, I think, improvement over what we had. And this might be a good segue into an issue that's on our agenda, where we were to discuss perhaps having a temporary quorum definition. I know Brian had mentioned this at one of our previous meetings, that because we were down an active participant in Western Region, and OAR was struggling to find somebody to join our team, that there might be the need for a definition that would allow us to proceed with business given these reductions in force, as it were. But so see, now that we have an OAR rep and two actual participants from Western Region who are able to attend, do we need to consider a temporary definition of quorum other than what we have been using, which is 3 line offices and 3 regions in attendance?
I think that's probably okay to utilize that. I don't believe we need to make any changes now, but I don't know, Brian, since this was something that you had proposed, do you think there's any need to pursue it further at this time?
I think one of the aspects, especially with the NWS membership, I'm trying to look for a quorum right now. Okay, so we already changed the weather service to be 3 out of 8, so I think we're pretty good there. The 60% of line offices, 3 out of 5, I believe we're still struggling with a fisheries rep, John?
That's correct, yep.
So we really only have 4 line offices represented. So, I mean, what I had, and especially when OAR was struggling, I was going to say 2 out of 5 is a necessity. I hesitate to say 2 out of 5 just because, then I don't want it to become too dominated by the weather service. But we really only have 4, so we're kind of like doing 3 out of 4. So that's what all I'm bringing up. I'm not saying necessarily we have to change it. Is there any? I think in terms of membership, that actually is something that we should continue to stay on in terms of fisheries representatives. So we should continue to explore that. If we're doing that, I think I'm okay with 3 out of 5 for now. But if it doesn't look like we're going to get a fisheries rep anytime soon, we might want to explore changing that. So that would be my thought on the matter.
What if we do further exploration down the road? Let's say we get to maybe October, November, and there isn't any changes. Maybe at that time, do you think we should implement some sort of a 2 out of 5 at that point?
With what?
Do you think maybe like by maybe October, November, or maybe later this fall, we reevaluate that and come back to it and see if we do feel that we need to make a change, then maybe make that change at that point?
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, exactly. Kind of reevaluate later with the action as it stands right now to continue to work on our fisheries representation.
Sure. Okay.
If that makes sense, John.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. So I'll take an action to poll, our contact over at NIMPS and see what the status is. I think they're due back sometime in August, so I think by now we should be able to reach them by email. Alrighty, cool. Now we did somewhat skip over update on VIT tickets, but Ken is, turns out he's out in the Pacific doing some work there with, what is it? I think it's the VLab actually, but anyway, he's not going to be available for our meeting today, so I think we'll have to forego that. But what I will offer is that I will put an update in the minutes. Once he gets back, I'll get a update from him, and we'll put that in the minutes so folks can read it. Does that seem reasonable?
I think that sounds good.
Okay, perfect. All right. And I believe that brings us now to an issue that Brian was going to discuss, one of the candidate issues before the team. Did you want to discuss that? Let's see, I have the issue here.
Yeah, can you bring it up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just trying to remind myself what this is. Oh, okay. So in Redmine, it is not possible to have multiple people watch an issue category and receive emails when tickets are open and modified. So this is an issue that happens a lot with any project that's in Redmine. You can have a group email, but if you want to have individuals be able to watch, and then other individuals be able to edit or take responsibility for it. So even for this, for example, this issue right here, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, but with the VIT issues, we don't have a way to have everybody on the VIT watch an issue.
So if it's just a matter of watching the issue, there are a couple things that can be done. The first is each ticket does have what's called a watchers list. And so it's a manual process. You go in and you just add individuals one by one that you want to watch it. Okay, so that's one approach that the ticket owner can take to ensure that people are kept abreast of what's going on relative to this ticket. A second option is, okay, so, and then there's another issue, or not, well, let's talk about the second option. The second option is that on, for all projects, we have the ability, admins have the ability to create what's called groups. And these groups apply to the entire VLab, the entire Redmine. So it's not on a project by project basis, which means that admins have to do the work of creating the group and then managing the members of the group. But once that group is assigned, created, and members are assigned to it, you could then add, let's see, for example, let's try editing this. I don't know if it's going to show up, but perhaps it will. You can add the group. Hello. There we go. So if you look at the assignee list and you go all the way down to the bottom, there's groups. And we have a virtual lab support team group already there. But you could envision a VIT group, which would have all the members that you would want to, basically be involved in this. And so then you would add the group as the assignee. And then that group has all the roles and permissions that the assignee would have. So they could come in and edit the ticket and, change the status around and that sort of thing. as well as receive updates on any changes to it. So that's an option. And then the final one is that so each person, let me see if I can go up here and show this. So if you go to your accounts, there's email notifications. So this is this sort of the side of things. You just want to stay abreast of what's going on. And one of the options is for any event on all my projects. So by selecting that, you would then see anything that changed within the VLab improvement team project. And then there are other options as well. So you could actually select certain projects. So down below, you can turn on. Yeah. I've got all my VIT stuff going here as well, but the VLab in addition. So that just allows you to get abreast.
Yeah. So I would say this one, just taking this option, this doesn't work for a couple of the bigger projects that are out there, that even if they have some sub-projects, they aren't split into enough sub-projects that makes it that you'd want to watch all of that stuff. So for the software collaboration portal, for example, in the weather service, it's a big project, and you wouldn't want to be watching all the specific things that come in for that project. So this probably is not the way to go. The second option that you mentioned, I know people have been using that second option as a way to get around this issue. I think it works pretty well, but the problem is that you don't really have an assignee. You have a group that's assigned to it. So in terms of project management, it's maybe not as efficient. The first option and I'm getting some feedback, so I apologize. The first option you mentioned was adding watchers. And you have to do that manually for every ticket.
That's right. Yep. You have to do it for each ticket. So it's flexible in the sense that you can put just the people you want, but you do have to manually do that every time, which does require that initiative, so to speak. The other thing, they're not really, they can just watch, as the name implies. They're not able to get in and edit the ticket per se, unless they have roles from another relationship with the ticket. But
so what I am wondering, or I want to push this issue forward, and I guess my suggestion would be that what we're saying is basically adding a watch category, that you can add a group to that watch category, that they're not the assignee, but that you're adding them as a group to the watch category.
Okay, so you're saying you'd want to add a watcher, and the watcher would be a group? Brian?
Yeah, sorry, I'm on mute. Either that, or you could have, just like you have assignee in the ticket, you could have a separate watcher category that you are able to select the same kind of thing. Because that's basically what the watcher thing is doing on the right side. It's doing the exact same thing as the assignee drop down. It's just manual and not a group. And it might be nicer to have it integrated within this, ticket options when you create a ticket.
Okay. All right. We would, we could provide that as additional background.
So I would just provide that as additional background as kind of where I'm looking for this functionality to go.
Okay.
Because right now we just have a description in there, and I can actually edit, or if you're able to edit the description, that's great. If not, it's fine.
I can take care of it.
And I'd like to push this forward as a nominated candidate. Like to nominate it, and again, we'll see, as with any issue, what the ranking is.
Are there any questions from attendees today that Brian can answer for you?
The only thing I was going to mention, John, this is Todd. You can do bulk edits of issues to add watchers. You don't have to do it one by one, just so you know, so everyone knows. So if you go back to the issue tab and pull up, like, well, you'd have to be in Redmine, I guess. But if you pull up a whole list of issues, you can select the entire project and do in one shot add watchers. Now that it's still manual, and it wouldn't help for what Brian's looking for in terms of like a recurring feature, but I guess you only have one issue shown there. But you can just select the whole column. You don't have to save it. And then if you right click,
oops,
you got to move, right there.
Hold on. Let's see. There we go.
And then you can add watchers all in one shot right here. Just so you know, Brian, until you're able to get some improved functionality.
Sounds good.
All right.
So actually, I guess it almost might be two tickets then, John. That one ticket is the ability, just like you add a group for an assignee, that you should be able to add a group for a watcher, regardless of how it's done. And the second ticket is making it a more automated watching type functionality.
How so automated?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, how would you envision the automation work?
That you wouldn't. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on it. I think there's two. I think that's for the support team to decide. The functionality is that either you can that there's one ticket to be able to add a group as a watcher. That's one functionality that we're looking for.
Right.
And the second functionality is maybe to be able to automatically assign either within a project or within a sub-project a group as a watcher for everything in that project.
Oh, okay. So that's back to this ability to edit more than one ticket at a time?
Yeah, something like that.
Because I think we can do that now. Is that, because we were just demonstrating that by going ahead and, you can add a watcher. Did you want to add something else? Because you can add multiple ones as well.
Well, then what I'm asking for is a category for watcher within the ticket, that you don't have to come into this all issues thing, that you can add it directly on the ticket. So that's my second. That's the second ticket, unless you can already do that, but I don't think you can. If you go to the specific ticket, the one that we're looking at, you can't add a watcher. There's no category for a watcher. There's a category for assignee, for category, for priority status. That there should be a watcher thing right there.
But that's what this is over on the right-hand side.
Yeah, so it should be moved.
You want it moved into the ticket itself. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. So that can certainly be requested for sure.
Yeah, so there's two things. So actually, kind of separating this into two things. The one is moving that watcher thing directly into the ticket itself, so somebody who's populating all these fields can populate, and then two, similar to an assignee, that you can make a group as a watcher.
Gotcha. Okay, clear in my mind, and I'll go ahead and, if you don't mind, I'll take a shot at creating the ticket for that second one, and then maybe modify the one we have already to kind of make it more group-centric, and then you can give me some feedback.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay. All right. So let's see. I assume here that I guess I should ask the question, is the group nominating the current issue 53508 as to be considered for VIT endorsement?
I'd say, John, if I was going to say punt it to the next meeting, but I won't be at the next meeting. But I'll still say punt it.
Okay.
Punt it to when we have both tickets ready,
Okay.
to make sure that everyone's good with those, and then we can rank them after.
Got it. Okay. Any further discussion on this agenda item? Alrighty. So then I think we're ready to move on to a ticket that has been on our endorsed list for some time now, and we have gotten to the point. Let me bring it up for everybody to see. Okay. Okay. Issues. Okay. All right. So this ticket's been with us for a while. We've endorsed it. It was ranked as a impact score of 5, and essentially what it was asking for is so within Redmine, you have the ability to use some editing, and one of the formats that is used and currently used by Redmine is this thing called Textile. But one of our other users, Bradley McCune, had wanted to use something called Markdown. And so the hope was that we could kind of have an either or. So you could use Textile or you could use Markdown. But upon further review, it looks like the implications of adding Markdown would be that it would have to replace Textile. And that would cause significant impacts to those who had already formatted their content in this Textile format. So Bradley McCune had, in his most recent addition to the ticket, had said that he was okay with dropping this ticket, that he felt that it just wasn't practical to push for using Markdown. And so rather than just close out the ticket, I decided that it would be better to bring it to the team's attention and to make sure that it's all right to essentially close this as a rejected ticket, that we will not be making that change that he had requested. So I open it up for discussion. Does anyone have a question about the ticket, what the options were, or Bradley's ultimate thought that we can go ahead and close it?
This is a question from Shad in Western Region. So I think I've used Markdown. This is just the formatter to highlight different code and to make code stand out. And is that right? These two.
For example,
okay.
we can show it in action. If we go to the edit and we want to type in, this is text. Okay. So then we can come in here and we can make it bold. Now I think this is where it's being manifest. And there's other stuff you can do obviously as well, as you can indent and that kind of thing. And so underlying this is the formatting, a formatting engine that takes these commands, interprets them, and then renders them in a certain way. And so the different option would be using Markdown as opposed to Textile.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I don't have a comment on it as long as it sounds like as long as there's functionality. But thanks for showing me.
Absolutely. So would anybody object then if we went ahead and rejected this ticket, this VIT endorsed ticket? That would essentially bring it to the end of its life cycle. All right. Well, then the minutes will show that there was no objection, and the ticket will be updated to have a status of rejected. Thank you. All righty. So let's see, I believe, David, that brings us to our open forum.
All right, thanks, John. Yeah, I don't have anything new that that I was going to bring up. I think going back to the previous point that Brian said there, I don't know if we want to somehow have that annotated with respect to the quorum definition down the road in our meetings. How we want to annotate that so that we come back to that or reevaluate that. I don't know how you want to propose doing that or put it on the calendar. But that's all I had. I don't know. Is there anything that anybody else had that they wanted to bring up or discuss?
Yeah, this is Nicole. Can I ask about the one ticket I had open?
John, are you able to bring that up?
Right, trying to do that now. Hold on 1 second. All right, so here we have it. Go to our issues. And I think if we try to use some of the features available, wait a minute, here's the filter. Let's add a signee. And now I can find Nicole Peterson. And then we'll apply. And as she pointed out, there's one. We can now take a look at it. All right, so here's the referenced ticket.
So this was a ticket that was originally Tammy Adams. And I was able to get a hold of her and ask a little bit of the history of it, and she gave me some of what she had done with the ticket. And it was from an OIR presentation that somebody else had given. And she made a ticket based on this presentation, so it looks like it connects to something else. So she wasn't really sure if it was something that we still needed to pursue or if it was just something that we could go ahead and close out. So my question was, what does this link to, or what else, who else, I guess, gave this presentation? Is the person from OIR on this call too?
Let's see if we can figure out a little background history here. So I believe, if this is what I'm recalling, I was just trying to confirm, this is Eric Rasmussen, right? Let's see.
Yeah, that was Eric Rasmussen.
Yeah, so we have this thing that occurs on a quasi-monthly basis called the VLab owners meeting. And one of the agenda items there is a focus on a particular community. And I believe Eric had made a presentation at that meeting. And he made a number of sort of what we'll call general suggestions on things that he saw that might be improved within the VLab. And these were with reference to his particular community, which I think it's called Vortex SE. And the idea was that, given that they were sort of quasi-suggestions, that it would be appropriate to go through his presentation, perhaps even discuss with him if any of those ideas that he had sort of focused on might make actual suggestions, where we would basically enter them into the suggestion form, and then a ticket would be generated, and then it would go through the normal VIT approval process, so to speak. And so that's where Tammy was in the process of working with Eric. Now, depending on what she told you, I don't know how far along she actually got towards that. If you feel that that's been accomplished and that there were no potential VIT suggestions, then it could easily be closed. If you think there might still be, okay.
It sounds like just the ticket had been made, and that was the end of what I know about it. So I don't know if there was any more contact with Eric, or if that's something we still need to do, or if we can just go ahead and close it. I mean, it looks like it's been over 2 years since this ticket's even been made.
Yes.
So I don't know.
My thought would be that an effort had been made to glean out any suggestions, and that not having taken place, this ticket could be closed. But I
Okay.
will leave that to the team as a group to decide whether or not that's the appropriate action that they want to take.
Okay. Sounds good.
I think that's fair. I'd close it out.
Okay. We shall close it. Let me make sure I got the number right. Yeah. Got it. All righty. Were there any other items for the open forum from members?
Yes, John, I have a couple actually. This kind of all relates to forums and subscriptions and stuff like that. I know some which are already being worked with regards to the Ideas Marketplace. Some that I've brought up before, and so I'd like maybe do one action item that we follow up specifically on forums and subscriptions with Ken in the future, and maybe again, because I'm not going to be on the next call, that I'm able to talk to him maybe next week or later this week whenever he's back in the office. So maybe just put in the action items for us to get together on that. In addition, I saw that there was recently some VLab improvement team tickets discussion with Jeff Craven on subscribing to forums. You know, I'm not completely sure on where that stands, and I think you were involved in that, so I don't know if you have any more on that.
Sure, I can at least sort of define for the group the issue involved and what probably needs to be done. So, you know, within the National Blend of Models community, they use forums to allow people in the field to post, you know, directly via email, you know, feedback basically. And the idea would be, in the ideal world, that this individual, when they send this email to this forum category and a post is generated, that individual who may not be a member of the community would be subscribed to the thread that they just created by sending that email. So that when somebody within the community responds, you know, to say their question or their feedback, they would receive an email response. And in fact, that's the way forums are supposed to work. There's a checkbox for each forum that allows you to say to the application, you know, when somebody posts something, they should automatically be subscribed to that thread. But it does not appear to be working. I've gone in and kind of convinced myself that it's not working. So it's a bug. And as soon as we have the developer resources to look at it, we'll you know, begin to figure out whether or not it's a bug that somehow is related to the way we've implemented LifeRay, or whether it's actually a LifeRay bug, in which case LifeRay would probably get around to that problem. So that's kind of where it is. We're
okay.
And
yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good, John. Thanks for informing about that bug. I think that ties into some of the discussions we've had before about forums and subscriptions, some of the comments I've brought up before about inability to exactly see who is subscribed to the forums in different categories, some suggestions I've made before. I think there might be a couple of tickets. So, you know, again, maybe we can have an action for Ken to summarize a little bit about what the issues existing with forums are, and we can have some further discussion on that, both offline and then on a future call.
Okay. So yeah, I'll let him know that you're interested in discussing this, and then we'll also work it on a future meeting.
All right. Yeah, that was it for me.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no additional discussions for our open forum, then I guess we're ready to take a look at the open action items that we have. And I'm going to make this smaller because.
I'm sorry, this is JJ. Did you hear me? I was muted.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, my fault. So real quick, I was just looking through some VLab communities recently to report an issue I had found, and I noticed that we're growing, which is great, and we're seeing a lot more communities. I'm wondering if at some point we need to do kind of like a an organizational discussion, or have an organizational discussion to see if there's maybe 2 or 3 communities that are really all linked and that they could be embedded within one overarching community, you know what I mean? And kind of and streamline some of the community so we have a really good organizational structure. Is that thought about or possible at all?
I would make 2 suggestions on that, John, from myself, and I think this is a good idea. 2 things we've talked about in relation to this before. One is there actually exists, and it may still be, John, just it might not even be a nominated issue for the VIT. I don't know if we can go just quickly bring up the VIT issues while I'm talking to it. Not the VIT issue, yeah, the VIT issues. And I think there's one associated with me. No worries. While you bring up that, the first thing I was going to say is that I think, JJ, this kind of relates to the strategic planning team and the efforts that we tried to start with there. So I hope that we can bring this up with Steve Smith again to talk about what's the best path forward as we encourage and get more participation on VLab, that we have some sort of way to review what is there, and maybe I've suggested in the one I'm referring to, the ticket here was like an archive thing.
Right.
I know it's somewhere there. Yes, there you go, right there. So it was endorsed with an impact score of 6, but it had nothing been done, right?
Right. I don't think what we can do is we can check. I think it just assigned. Let's take.
No, but go to. Oh.
That's a year ago, 11 months ago. Yeah, I don't see any action having been taken on the VLST side of it.
Okay, but it was a related issue. I was thinking somewhat along the same veins as JJ on terms of, making sure that we kept the content fresh, kept the content relevant, and for things that maybe aren't relevant or need to be combined, that we should be, if not the VIT, in a strategic fashion, somebody should be looking at this. So I think this is maybe we can make it a broader action to check into the status of this ticket, and then discuss again some strategic direction of VLab in terms of content.
Okay.
And get Steve's thoughts on the matter.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. So status of content, that, just to make sure I have a good sense of that. You're looking, because one of the things we have, I think, dealt with at some point was this idea that, there are communities out there whose content has never been added, essentially. They got it,
Yeah.
They built the community, but there it sat with little or no actual, modification to it. Is that what we're getting at here when we talk about meeting with Steve and hearing his thoughts on how to deal with those underdeveloped, we'll call them, communities?
Underdeveloped or overtaken by other events. Maybe there is development within it, and maybe it just needs to be combined with some other more recent communities. So So I think it's more a discussion about strategic direction with content in the VLab. And again, I think it relates to our strategic planning team initiatives. So it's a broader thing to have Steve, and we've been trying to get him on a call to talk about the strategic planning team and what he sees. But in that discussion, I think we can bring these issues up about content and how to best manage content within the VLab. And this ticket specifically goes to one of the functionality that I would imagine. So it'd be good to get an update just on this ticket to see what's happened.
Perfect. We'll do that. One of the things I'll also do with this ticket is, so there's an effort for the VLST to, so we have this issue that you raise in this ticket of these old or no longer used communities, but how do we actually identify which ones those are? And so there's an effort on the VLST to put in place some mechanisms that would allow us to look at a community and say, does it have recent content? How much content is being added recently? That kind of thing, so that we'll have a practical way to go about assessing which communities need to be evaluated for, this process of streamlining and, perhaps removal or combining or whatever it would be. So,
well, maybe the VIT should be asked about their thoughts on that. I would actually suggest that the VIT be asked to provide feedback on this initiative that the VLST is taking.
Okay.
I would agree with that, Brian. I concur that we should be consulted on that.
Okay. I'll have to locate that ticket for sure then. All right. VIT feedback on, we'll call it activity level.
All right. This is Chad at Western Region. Just quickly, I noticed Warren Blyer, I think, put in something about that too, to identify which communities were most active, like some objective measure of that, so he can determine which ones he wants to join. It's a little separate issue, but I think it's also connected to what you're saying about identifying communities that are active or not, or new content.
Mm-hmm. What was the name of the individual?
Warren Blyer. I got an email. I think it was assigned to me. I think.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm trying to look it up. There it is. It's number 38289. So. Yeah, there it is.
Right.
So the reasoning for this is a little different, but the objective would be the same, or the.
Right. Agreed. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll link that as a related issue.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. Okay. So, are we ready to proceed to a quick review of open action items?
I believe so.
All right. Thanks, John, by the way. Let's see. So there's a number of open ones here. There was supposed to be an agenda item scheduled to discuss this quorum issue, which we did. The agenda item was put on there, and it has been discussed. So I will close out this one, and then there'll be an additional one opened up to continue to pursue that, I guess. Or maybe I'll just leave this one here, but it'll be reworded if nothing else. So there was another agenda item for Reed Walcott to determine who will be his replacement, and I believe we can happily report that that has taken place. So that will be closed. There was an item to provide guidance to the VIT on how to proceed with the strategic planning team effort. That was in Steve Smith's ballpark, and he has not yet gotten back to us, but we will continue to pursue that information from him, and we'll probably discuss that at one of our future meetings here in the near future. Then we've got an agenda item, an open action item, document the requirements. The subscription manager can manage subscriptions for the entire forum, and 2, can display all members of the National News Service Organization. And these have been related, I'm sorry, was there a comment? No. The VLab support team should be included in the link to the VIT issue that. So that has been provided to the developer. I guess it's, let's see, Mike Ebler, who's working that aggressively, and he's got some changes that Ken is ready to roll out to development. So I think some of this will be improved. So that one will remain open though. When the subscription manager has been updated to provide a demo, so we're probably not quite there yet, but that will be at one of our next meetings, maybe one next time or time after that. VIT leadership will need to find a new lead. Okay, so this is basically we're waiting to hear back from Steve, but once that guidance has been given, and if the decision is to move ahead with some sort of additional strategic planning, then we'll need to find somebody to head that up. We're going to work with the VLab director to obtain documentation from Bill Ward on where he had gotten the strategic planning effort, and we are still working on that. And we'll continue to do that, and perhaps next meeting we'll put that on the agenda item for a quick discussion. Let's see, provide the the VIT with a copy of the presentation. Oh yeah, that's still Bill Ward. So that's what we were trying to get from him. And I was tasked to work with Steve to make that happen. And we still haven't quite got there. So then a couple other for the strategic planning team lead, once we get to that point, are on the books, but we will not discuss them today. And then an action item related to that ticket that was discussed concerning Eric Rasmussen, and that will be closed out along with the ticket. So any questions concerning our open action items? Okie dokie. So would you like me to quickly go through what I believe are our new action items? So the first one I have is let's see, I guess I am the executive staff for the team, and we need to continue pursuing a replacement for the NIMPS representative. There, as long as that's going on, then the current status is okay, so that's good. Let's see, we need an update from Ken on the minutes, or I'm sorry, on the VIT issues, which I will put in the minutes. So that's the second one. Then we're going to I need to update the existing ticket that Brian suggested at 737 to focus it on including groups in watcher lists, and then add a new ticket to add a watcher field to the ticket itself along lines of a signee field. And then once those two tickets have been reviewed by Brian, we'll bring them before the team at one of our future meetings for consideration as a nomination candidate. Need to update issue 17737 to rejected. Then we will close Nicole's ticket 36070. I will schedule a meeting between Ken and Brian to discuss forums, and subsequently we will have a discussion at a team meeting, perhaps presented by Ken, on forums, open issues regarding forums, and then perhaps activities related to those, what we want to see done. Let's see, we need to have a discussion with Steve Smith on streamlining, organizing VLab communities based on lack of activity or just the need to fit them in with other communities. And then provide the VIT the link to the VLST ticket. Well, I guess the best way to do that is to schedule an agenda item to have the VIT weigh in on VLST plans to develop activity level based metrics. And that's all I have. Did I miss anything, or are there any comments on potential these new action items? Alrighty. With that, I turn it back over to David.
All right, thanks, John. It looks like you've got quite a bit on your to-do list. So let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Appreciate everybody's participation on the call today. And next meeting will be set up for September 11th. So hopefully we'll have good participation again for that next call. That's all I have. So thank you, John, for setting this up, and we'll be in touch with everybody.
All right. Have a nice time.
Thank you.